Hello everyone, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. My name is Sam Harkin, and welcome to this little co-review that I'm doing. Usually I'd be doing it with Jono, but he is, he's not in labour. His wife is in labour. So congratulations, and hopefully everything has gone well with that. Yes. And that other voice that you hear then is good Twitch friend and also other Life is Strange 2 player, Miss Midnight Victoria. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm excited to talk about Life is Strange. I love it. I would call me more than a player. I'm like an addict.
All right. We've only just finally had the season wrap up fairly recently, so we're going to go through everything, and we're going to start off with kind of keeping things a little bit spoiler free, so for everyone who hasn't played, if you want some kind of recommendations, we'll give that to you, and then we'll get into spoiler zone stuff. I'll put a timestamp below or something. You will know when that is happening, so hopefully you don't get spoiled if you don't want to. But let's just start off with like our general thoughts. Victoria, what did you think? Did you like Life is Strange 2?
When I first played the first episode, I was a bit concerned as to where they were going to go with it, but as they've rounded out the end, I feel like they've done a really good job with it.
I kind of feel the same way too. So, to give people kind of like a bit of a general overview, this is the story of two brothers, Sean and Daniel Diaz, and they are essentially fugitives fleeing the police after their father is shot, and very Life is Strange supernatural things happen where Daniel can do telekinesis and stuff. It's an interesting plot. I wasn't initially convinced of the whole idea of just having like kind of two characters throughout the whole thing. Like, how did you feel about that?
I have to admit, at first I was a little bit not sure about it. I was trying to work out how they could build it around them, but as I've grown to learn about the brothers, I grew to love them some more. But I did get excited when they brought in some different characters along the road.
Yeah. It's probably a bit more well documented because I did like tons of episode reviews, but like I kind of was a bit up and down about the episodes, and it's kind of evened out, I think, seeing the whole arc. I'm kind of curious what you thought of like the presentation and stuff though, because I think some episodes were I feel like some of the episodes were much better than others. Like, I thought the third episode was easily the prettiest, well, maybe the fifth also.
I think they were all very beautiful, like just the scenery and the it's just the woods and all the little bits and pieces in it you find as
and the music and everything. It's very similar kind of gameplay that we have to other kind of Life is Strange games. It's very kind of choice focused. One question that I did have though, that I'm very curious about, because like me, you've played like everything how much of the stuff have you played in the Life is Strange franchise? Like all of it? Okay.
All of them.
I've played, I think, everything except for that one episode that was supposed to be like a prologue to the original. How do you feel that Life is Strange 2 fits in terms of like ranking? Like, do you think it's kind of on par with everything? Do you think it's a little bit better? Not quite as good?
I think they've done things better in some regards, and then they've done others. Like, Life is Strange 1 was the first one I ever played, and I think the new feel with it, the choices, the changing of the time and stuff like that Max could do, it was a really good... I really liked that new... There wasn't anything very similar to it at the time that I can think of off the top of my head. And I really enjoyed it, but then I also found they kind of made it a bit tedious when, for some of those people who knew what they should do, Max had to then go and do the wrong decision to then go, oh, well, I can use my powers and rewind and do this other decision. Whereas in the second one, they didn't have that tediousness. I didn't feel like there was any part of it that Sean and Daniel had that tediousness part of it where you had to do something else before you did something that you needed to do in the story.
Do you think that balances out though with the fact that I mean, as far as I can recall, like Life is Strange, like the ones previous had like 90-minute episodes, and this one seemed to have like 2.5 hours.
I'll be honest, I didn't really notice the time. I think I got so invested in the story I didn't realise how long these ones were compared to the other ones.
Fair enough.
Were they really that short? Were they the old ones?
I think they were like 90 minutes. I mean, I definitely noticed that they were like a little bit longer, and granted, part of that was probably because the first time that I played one of them, I streamed it, and I expected it to be like 1.5 hours, and it was just like, oh, would you look at that? It's like, I wanted to go to bed like half an hour ago, and we're still going.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Some of them felt a little bit long. I think we'll probably get a bit more into that when we get into the spoiler zone, because there are definitely some instances where it was like specific moments, so that was just like, do we have to keep doing this? But I mean, I didn't think they were, overly flabby, I guess. So I guess, this probably is a pretty obvious answer, but would you recommend this game to people?
Oh, I would recommend this game to anybody in a heartbeat. If you are a story game lover, if you are a choices matter type style game player, I would recommend this. Would be definitely right up your alley to play. I'm sure there would be a lot of people out there who don't generally play these style of games, and you would still get caught up. You want them to get the best result.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat. Like, I mean, do I have criticisms of it? Yeah, sure, I have like a couple of criticisms. There are a couple of things that, felt a little bit slow at times, but generally I did really enjoy this game. Not sure how I'd rate it amongst the other ones. Like, I feel like they all kind of blend into being kind of fairly equal, just, slightly different in different ways. Overall, seeing the full arc of everything, I kind of understand all the choices that were made by the developers, and yeah, I think it's a pretty solid game, and people should try it out. So, with that kind of generally marks the end of the spoiler-free zone. So we're going to be talking about spoilers from now on throughout the entire season. So if you have not played this and want to go into it completely spoiler-free, you have our recommendations. But otherwise, now we're going to talk about spoiler stuff. So I figured we'd kind of go through episode by episode and kind of discuss, what we liked, what we didn't like. So starting with episode 1, as you said, you kind of got like halfway through episode 1 and you're kind of like, what are we doing here? So I'm assuming that's after that initial, story beat that we got from the trailers of the dad getting shot. Yeah.
You got a little bit of time to explore the bedrooms and whatnot before the incident, and got to meet his friends and stuff, but it didn't really go into a lot of depth of it, and after that it just kind of felt very much like a walking simulator.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, when I was going into this first episode, I was very much concerned, because the only thing that we saw in any of the marketing seemed to be that first half an hour, and since I saw that in a full playthrough, I was just like, okay, what is the remaining hour, which ended up being 2 hours?
What's next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit concerned about that going into it.
I loved, I called him our...
Brady?
He sounded a lot like Seth Rogen, that's what I'm thinking of. And I called him my honorary Seth Rogen when I played it. And I wanted him to come back so bad throughout the other ones. Every single episode, I was like, is he going to come back?
I mean, it was a nice kind of father figure kind of person. One thing I will say is, before we got to that though, we kind of go to this like rest stop place. I kind of wanted to point that out, because that was like the first of many kind of quiet moments that I really liked. I weirdly liked a lot of the quiet moments in this game. So you have kind of this moment where you have to like get supplies, and you're just like, should I steal them? Should I buy them? And all kind of the while you're kind of dealing with this anxiety of just like, this shopkeeper just like glaring at you like from behind like the counter. And I feel like there were lots of moments in this game, as we'll go into, that those quiet moments I think conveyed a lot of the story. And yeah, I think that was, I mean, it was better than the other stuff.
Well, I like that was also when the game explained to you at the beginning that you would be creating a relationship between these brothers as well. So anything that you did, Daniel would react to throughout the game. And so that was always on the forefront of my mind of when I picked my choices. It was like, well, I have to be doing the right thing by Daniel, or I have to be making sure that I teach him the right way to be living. I guess as a parent myself, I always was kind of thinking, how's this going to affect Daniel? And then that's, like you said, the stealing. I mean, you could tell Daniel to
distract.
And you could tell that his character wasn't quite sure about it, because I loved the dad. I thought he was an amazing dad to the boys, and I was just absolutely devastated.
Oh, yeah.
In those first few moments of the game. You could tell that the dad had tried their best to teach the boys to live their life as decent human beings. Anytime you tried to do something that was not considered like to lie or to steal, you could see that the developers had kind of made Daniel to kind of think, well, is that really what we should do?
You know, I guess we might as well ask this at this point. So when you did your you've only done one run of the game, right?
Yes, I did a one run. I streamed all 5 episodes, like not all together, but like as they came out. But I do want to go back, because I did have a look at the end of all the different choices that you could have.
Yeah.
And a lot of the ones, spoilers, a lot of the ones at the end said that Daniel would either listen to you or he wouldn't listen to you. And it made me wonder, well, is that depending on what choices you make throughout the whole game?
Yeah.
To see that relationship is built or not built. And
yeah, well, I've personally encountered the majority of them. We'll get to the specific details when we get to the end of episode 5. But you did like kind of a lawful run, shall we say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Majority of the time, it was more along the lines of, I didn't want to lie to Daniel. I don't lie to my own children. I didn't want to lie to Daniel. So anytime that something came up, I tried to be as honest as I could with him. And I also tried not to steal as much as possible.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you don't get a lot of money, and sometimes you had to kind of do stuff that wasn't as great a choice. But as a whole, I tried to do a more lawful run.
I was kind of interested, like, I feel like maybe it might have been a bit more poignant if like, because as far as I can tell, there isn't really a lot of consequence. Like, I don't think you can actually run out of money. I think it's just kind of there as kind of, you know, a reminder of you know, things could go bad at any point, you need money kind of thing. So, I don't know, it would have been nice if there was a little bit more consequence. But I kind of did both runs, but, you know, so I got him to steal and I got him to not steal, so there's that. Either way...
And was there any difference?
No, I mean, not like, well, obviously there is kind of, you know, the lasting consequences, you know, leading on to the ending kind of thing. But, like, as I'd like to move on to, either way, you get, you know, kidnapped by this old white guy who's just like, you know, like, you should build a wall and blah, 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 blah. Which is kind of, I guess, our first... Well, not our first. Like, the first one is a Hispanic person getting shot by police. But the second kind of, you know, instance of, you know, here are the politics is, you know, this guy, you know, like, making sure you're a citizen and wanting to build the wall. How did you feel they handled that? Because I thought it was a little ham-fisted, personally.
I didn't really... it was quite a while since I last played it, so I don't think I really paid attention to the politics of it. It was more along the lines of, I must protect
Get
Daniel.
out of here. Yeah, that is fair enough. So, yeah, basically after that, then Brady helps you, and you get to a hotel, and also Arcadia Bay stuff. So that was the first instance of them tying it back to Arcadia Bay, where they show you, you know, either Arcadia Bay is destroyed or it's not.
Yeah, depending on what you picked in the first season.
Yeah, which I thought was an interesting tie-in. So, episode 2, we're kind of seeing the boys, like, you know, Daniel is practicing his powers and stuff, but either way, they kind of have to, you know, move on and, you know, go to their grandparents' house, because otherwise, you know, Daniel's going to get sicker and such.
Yes. I loved his grandparents. They were beautiful people.
Yeah. They did have another great little quiet moment of like, they leave the room and you're just kind of like sitting alone there with your thoughts and everything, which I thought was a bit of a nice touch.
I did have a little bit of a tear up earlier in the first part of that episode before they went to the grandparents.
Oh my god, yeah.
With the little, you could, in the first episode, you could have chosen to adopt a puppy or not. I chose to adopt the puppy.
Cough, you can't.
Yeah.
Just as a spoiler alert, if you don't, he'll just take it anyway. It's just like, great, all right.
It gets attacked, and my heartstrings were torn. I was like, should I have not let him outside to go to the toilet? Like that would have made a difference at all. But that's what I was thinking. If I hadn't let him outside to go to the toilet, would Mushroom still be here today?
Oh boy. I mean, I was saddened by it as well, but I will say, I don't know if I've become like a really jaded critic or whatever, but I was just like, oh, you just freaking brought a dog in so you could kill it and get emotional points, didn't you, you bastards?
Well, it worked on me.
I mean, it worked a bit. Like, I mean, it's pretty messed up. So did you let him kill the cougar or not?
Yes, I think I did. I think I was very devastated by it and let him do it. I probably shouldn't have, but...
This isn't about, moral compasses or me being a parent. This is me just personally wanting revenge against this video game for doing this to me.
Damn straight.
Damn you. Yeah, I mean, like, if you don't, like, you don't get to bury him, which is, like, a bit tragic. But, yeah, so that was a very tragic thing. And then they're just like, oh, on the back of this tragedy, let's go over to our grandparents' house. Which is kind of cool because then we get, like, the link up to Captain Spirit. I'm assuming you played Captain Spirit.
Yes. I loved Captain Spirit. It was such a beautiful game.
Very much recommend. If nothing else, because like it's free. So
it is free, but not just that. If you and I would recommend playing it before you play Life is Strange 2, because I had a lot of, oh my god, that's when I did this, and oh my god, that's when that happened, and oh my god, when you got to eventually, I think that was in a different episode though. I don't think we were quite. Were we in Captain Spirit?
Yeah, we were in Captain Spirit. So, because like they're living next door to the grandparents that we stay with.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, you get to see a lot of
a lot of parallels.
Yeah, which was really cool.
Yeah. Admittedly, it also just made me really nervous when you're walking over to the house of just like, oh god, are things happening in the house as I'm approaching it? And there's this whole thing of Sean's like, oh man, I need to be harder on him, like these parents.
Not just that, you get if you've played Captain Spirit, you know the story with his dad and all that kind of stuff. And I do know that a lot of the time, because while I was streaming Life is Strange 2, I would tend to raid another streamer who was playing Life is Strange 2 to see their reactions to it. And I do know that one person I raided was like, well, I don't want to agree with his dad because I know what his dad is doing and all that kind of stuff. But you don't seem to see that side of it as much in the game as you do in Captain Spirit. Yeah. The DLC.
I mean, it would have been.
His dad seems rather just like an average normal dad in the game itself.
Well, one could argue that that's the scariest part of it is, there's no indication that, like there's anything dysfunctional there.
That is very true.
Yeah, so I was definitely paranoid as, you start to go to that. But the cool thing is, we go to the tree lot and we meet Cassidy and Finn, which I love.
Yes.
And, oh my god.
They were awesome characters. I loved them. They were amazing.
I mainly just liked them because they were the first characters that, went from one episode to the next that weren't Sean and Daniel.
Yes,
and wasn't
that's
Mushroom,
true.
I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know, they said like a good, nice first impression. And also, like, they had Cassidy playing like covers of songs, which was cool.
Yeah.
I found a way. Like, the song that plays at the end of the episode, like, is the same song that Cassie's playing at the market thing. So I was like, that's cool.
Her attitude kind of reminds me a bit of Chloe. She just seems like, one of those. But she was lovely, and Finn was awesome too.
Finn's great as well. He's just, I don't know, there's something, I don't want to say like it's like philosophical, but he's very I don't know. There's just characters that I see like that, and like, well, he's not an actual fictional character, but Greg Sipes, the person who plays Beast Boy, that I'm just like, you are so like chill. I'm jealous of you so much.
And not just that, Finn and Cassidy, they're closer to Sean's age from what you can tell as well. So it's the first non-adult other than the Captain Spirit, Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
That, you come across.
Yeah. That, well, I mean, that persists. Like, we've got Lila, we've got, dickhead neighbor kind of thing. But yeah, like characters that are actually kind of involved in the journey.
You could have rung Maya at one stage, but I was kind of like, I don't really want to get caught. So I didn't, I'll be honest, I didn't call her. I wish I had.
Oh, yeah.
Because I wish I'd done something, but then if I'd done that, would I have been caught by the police? Is it?
But it doesn't matter because you do anyway, and that leads us to the end of the second episode, which I will say, the second episode, the ending really caught me off guard because it was the first time that your choices affected someone that wasn't Daniel.
Yeah.
I really liked that because it made everything feel a little bit more alive and a little bit less, just these two people. You might not alert a lot of attention, but you might also get a small child, seriously injured.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I did that because I didn't think Daniel should tell Chris. And
I got
Chris
that as
thought
well.
he could stop the car.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, no,
Yeah.
You've had such a horrible life, kid. Why?
Yeah, that was definitely the moment that I kind of was like, okay, this might actually be like a really good season now that I think about it. But that leads us into episode 3, which I don't know about you. Episode 3 was my favourite episode.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Yes, I did. I really did enjoy the third one. It seemed to really hit its stride. Around then, didn't it? The end of episode 2 into episode 3, it really started to go, well, hey, this is where we're going. Jump on in and we'll take you for this roller coaster. And I really enjoyed the characters. You got to meet there were so many new characters.
Because I kind of just felt like it was a lot warmer, like you had kind of stuff where like you can get a haircut and you can talk about like, who you like. As your sexuality and stuff, and it was
you could pursue those personal relationships.
And I think that was definitely something that I felt was a bit lacking up to that point because it's just you and your brother. I will say, having said that, favorite episode, least favorite thing of the entire season though was the fucking weed trimming. That was the worst. Oh
yeah, that was so painful. Like,
yeah,
I get it, but just sitting there and it wasn't like as you trimmed you could really do any really interesting conversations. It was just like trim.
Yeah.
Trim.
And it was kind of this thing where like it had a mechanic, so you had to pay attention. So you couldn't just like play something on your phone while you're waiting. It kept you engaged enough that you couldn't not pay attention, but it was also boring.
Yeah, and then if you didn't do a good enough job, you didn't get paid as well.
You don't get paid either way, so who gives a shit?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but yeah, it was baffling because it went on for like 5 minutes, and like as a critic, I get it. Like I get that if you invite the developer over, they'd be like, oh well, it's supposed to be boring. It's supposed to demonstrate how they're in a crappy job and this is a dead end. Blah, blah, blah. But it's like, okay, but that's not engaging in a way anyway. So just make it shorter. Make it like a minute, and then just go into a montage or something.
Or give them the opportunity to develop those relationships with the other characters while they are going through this monotonous stuff.
Yeah, give us something to do.
And let them build the story a little bit while you're doing this terribly monotonous job.
Yeah. Oh, having said montages though, best episode I think ever in terms of music, because it had frickin' On Melancholy Hill by the Gorillaz and then D.A.N.C.A. by Justice, and those are like two of my favourite songs. I was like, fuck yes. The music was great throughout the season. Actually, one thing I was kind of interested by is that I don't know if they like ran out of money or something, but they kind of like in the 4th episode they only had one licensed song, and then in the 5th episode
I
they had
found the
none.
music in the first season was a lot better than the 2nd season, so it could have been like you said, you know.
Maybe.
And there were longer episodes in this one, so maybe the money wasn't put into the music as much as it was the story and the graphics and stuff.
Yeah, I think overall I preferred the first season's music, but that's only kind of through virtue of like there was like 4 or 5 songs that I was just like, I'm not really going to get into that at all, but some of them were fucking tight. The one that I had in episode 4 was fantastic. It's just it was weird. There was only one, and then there was none in 5. I half expected with 5 that it was like I didn't get the licensed song because I didn't get the canon ending.
I think with number 5 though, it's like with the episode 5, it's very much about escaping. That they're in that town where everybody wants to escape something or other, and they've come to this area in the desert to escape.
Yeah, I still could have had licensed music. I mean, the composer, Jonathan Morali, who is the guy who heads up Sid Matters, who did 2 of the songs in the original Life is Strange. Fantastic composer. Knocked it out of the park. I just found it weird. There was, none in episode 5. Anyway, episode 3 was really great.
Back to episode 3.
Yeah, episode 3 was really great, and it also delivered a bit of the drama with like the ending.
Yeah, they don't normally have a cliffhanger until the 4th episode, so I was not expecting it to be in the 3rd episode at all. I thought we were going to have just the normal, decisions that kind of put you on edge, but to have that bigger change depending on your decision, it was just like, wow.
I mean, I don't know, it's a bit, it kind of, it affects like a bit of peripheral stuff. I will say one question that I had, and I don't know if I was like literally the only person that I thought that like felt this way and thought of this when the ending came, was I like, I don't know about you, did you think that Sean was dead at the end of episode 3 or no?
I don't think I thought he was dead. I think I was still in a state. I don't think it crossed my mind that he was dead. I think I was just like, oh my god, Sean, what's happened to Sean? Yeah. And then everybody else was having all this stuff, and I was like, what's going to happen now? Why do I have to wait so long until the next one to find out what's going to happen now?
That was vicious. Yeah, I don't know why. I saw it like with his eye, and I was just like, that's probably hit like brain or something. I was just like, oh my boy. And then also like the freaking teaser is just like, you're all alone, like this is the end of the road, and then they just, pan over to like someone walking along the road. I'm like, is that Sean? Is that Daniel? It could be Daniel, and he's alone because his brother's dead. True. And that would also explain why he left. His brother just like bleeding out from the eye. I don't know. I thought it was that. And then just after a while, it just kind of seemed like literally no one agreed with that sentiment. So I was like, I don't know. But then we had episode 4, and I don't know about you, but that was depressing as hell. Yeah, so he wakes up like in a hospital, and it's like, your eye's gonna never recover, and also you're going to jail now.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I honestly didn't think I would see an FBI agent. It didn't occur to me, like, I knew if he was waking up in hospital, obviously the police would have found him in the hospital because he's a fugitive, but it didn't occur to me. I was like, oh no, this FBI person is here now. And my whole thought, because I was always the whole way through, I must protect Daniel, I must protect Daniel, I must protect Daniel. And the game really pushes you to protect your brother and stuff like that. I was constantly like, no, I'm not helping you. I have to get out of here. I can't let her find my brother. I didn't even give her a chance to prove that she was gonna help us in any way.
Yeah. So you escape, and did you like see like Finn in like the hospital room or anything like that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he was. I think he was awake. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because I didn't kill Finn in my episode.
I mean, I only killed him I think once, and it wasn't me doing it. I didn't kill him personally.
Because you have to do a particular thing to not... Because you can kill Finn, like, 2 out of the 4. You know, there's half a chance of you killing him and half a chance of you not killing him.
Yeah. So you go through... And then there's, like, the secondary, like, oh, everything's screwed, where, you know, you're going through the desert, which also was, like, a little bit slow, but it was kind of like, oh, well, it's supposed to be him suffering, trying to get to his brother. And then you get there, and then you just get like kicked out and stuff, and it was just that was depressing.
That Elizabeth was a little bit intense, I found when I met her. But I think the biggest shock for me was after that, when Karen turned up.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
And it was, and you had the opportunity to build a relationship with her, or to
just kind of reject her outright.
Not have her in there at all.
Yeah.
Because you didn't really know a lot. Like, you knew he didn't have his mum when he was younger. You kind of got a little bits of snippets of it as you explored the grandparents' house when you were there, but there wasn't really a lot in it, and you can get the chance for her to explain everything to them. It just seems a little bit odd. I guess because as a parent I find it a bit strange to find when they just up and leave and don't think about it. I found it odd that she's all of a sudden returned. Is there a reason, that she's, other than to help him get Daniel back?
Yeah. Well,
there something else that she wanted?
Okay, so like as a parent playing this game, did you kind of end up feeling like you kind of understood her a little bit more, or did you still feel like very distant from her?
As a compassionate person, I wanted to find out what would have caused her to up and leave her kids like that. And it's not like there was no indication in the first episode that their dad was a bad person, that he was a drunk or he was abusive or anything like that. So there was nothing that had really led to a reason as to why Karen would up and leave, and you don't really get any knowledge of that until a little bit later in episode 5, where you get to see a little bit more of that. But so I was kind of, as a compassionate person, I did lean to allow Sean to develop that bit of a relationship with her, so that way I could find out why, because I couldn't understand. As a parent, I couldn't understand why. And I know that there's always some sort of extenuating circumstances behind that kind of thing, and that happens in real life too, but I wanted to understand why.
Casual with Karen, you could kind of plot this kind of heist to get Daniel and everyone back. I mean, this episode was very interesting because it was kind of political in the sense that it was kind of, you're essentially like infiltrating like, a religious group, even if it is like, cultish. It is kind of, like, oh, it is kind of just Christianity, but like turned up to 11.
Yeah.
And the whole kind of thing of faith healing, and later in the episode we find out that Jacob left because he was getting put through like conversion therapy and stuff. Pretty dark. Yeah,
it does delve into that a bit, doesn't it? Even for someone who's not always on the, like, I don't seem to pick up on a lot of that political kind of stuff. I did seem to notice that stuff.
Obviously, in some cases, it was like a little bit more overt than others, but it's kind of, if you are, looking out for that, it is very much a political game. If nothing else, it's better than, like, so many freaking video games are like, like the Division 2, where it's like, it's in Washington, D.C., and you're taking down terrorists. And then the developer's like, this isn't a political game. Just like, huh? What?
It's hard to do a choices matter kind of emotional storyline without having some sort of political content to it anyway, because having an emotional story and having to make an emotional decision, it pulls on those parts of you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm pouring water at the same time. My throat's really
Yeah.
dry.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of fair. Like, I kind of feel like a lot of games inherently have, like, a political undertone to them, but especially in a game like this, where it's just, you know, it's representing, like, everyone as an enemy, the legal system, the policing system as kind of an inherent enemy is, obviously going to be a lot more overtly political.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like, some of them were more successful than others, shall we say. Yeah, so you rock up to a church, get your brother, and eventually you burn down a church and possibly murder a reverend of said church.
So, did you let her live in your first playthrough, or did you let her die?
In my first one, I wouldn't have. So essentially, my 3 runs were... 2 of them were parallel, one which I did as like all my videos on ATEBIT, which you should watch now, which was essentially the, chaotic run of just like screw everyone, powers are awesome. So that involved, like murdering. And then the second one was like a little bit more like, cautious, shy, lawful, in which I probably didn't. But yeah, I totally murdered her in my first run.
I let her live. I couldn't do it.
Okay.
I didn't like kill her so much, but I didn't like shoot her or anything, but
yeah,
I didn't like
you still knock her out or knock her out of the way or something.
Yeah, I pulled her out of the church and then we left, so.
Yeah. And then you get that beautiful choir song thing, which was beautiful, which is the last licensed track in the entire game. Before we get into episode 5, which was kind of just, everything falls apart and then comes together and that's the end of the game. Beautiful game. Beautiful episode, I should say.
Oh, the canyon was amazing. I stood there and took so many screenshots, man.
Yeah,
it
it's
was
so
incredible.
Pink and magenta, and I loved it so much.
It was beautiful.
Gorgeous. So yeah, like, you hang out at the canyon, you talk to people, and you leave, and let's just kind of get down to the nitty-gritty stuff. Firstly, vigilantes at the border. That's when it's just like, yep, this is overtly political. We are in Trump's America, etc., etc.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? Because I thought with the location, it felt a bit more appropriate to kind of have, these people being, screaming overt racists. But how did you kind of feel about that? Do you think they did it all right, or do you think it was a bit over the top?
I think they did. I mean, I don't live in America, so I can't really tell exactly how it is for them over there. But I felt, as a person who was playing a character who was not of they are an American nationality, but they are also Mexican. They appear Mexican, yes. And their dad was from there originally.
Yeah, they're Hispanic.
I felt really angry at the way that the people treated them, because they weren't. It's like that confusion you get when you have a child who's been born in America but their parents have come over, and then you're like, well, I'm actually, you knew that Sean and Daniel were American and you were trying to tell the people that this is what's going on, but they weren't listening because they were just so caught up in their own anger over the issue of having them near the border that I did like how when the police did turn up, you got to kind of get a little bit of a story in with the couple in your jail cell. I felt that was a nice little touch there to kind of get to see that side of it when they tried to get over so hard to build a better life for their child. And I think it was their 3rd time they had tried to get across. And, so it was a nice little touch to see that side of it as well.
Yes, we speak American. Yeah. And you get another moment of like you're stuck in a interrogation room by yourself, so you get to just sit with your thoughts for a little bit.
Yeah, that was weird. I was like, can I do anything? I'm like looking at different things. I'm like, surely, am I supposed to like get this handcuff off? Surely the guy would not just leave us here for that. Like, obviously he did, but
Yeah.
surely you would think that there would be something that the game would allow you to do while you're waiting, but you're just
So you
sitting
disliked that?
in that room. I didn't like. I was constantly looking for something that I had to do. I was waiting for that moment where, you know how when you have like games where, for example,
yeah, like you have a time limit to kind of get out, kind of thing.
Yeah, you have to find it before they get back. I was looking around trying to find this thing that obviously wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you know what? I get it, but at the same time, I'm like,
Yeah.
what's the point?
I mean, I wished it was like maybe like a little bit shorter, but I mean, as I said before, I kind of liked to a certain extent, you know, those kind of quiet scenes where like you can, you know, like where you intentionally are like looking for something and trying to figure out some kind of advantage where there is none. And I didn't mind that.
And I guess when you put it in that perspective, that's kind of the way that Sean and Daniel are throughout the whole game. They're looking for that advantage that they can't find.
I don't know, I kind of like that. And then you bust out, and then you get to the border, and now we can talk about endings. So what ending did you end up with?
I chose to surrender myself so that Daniel could go and live with the grandparents.
Okay. So my initial one was, I'm going full crazy, so let's go all the way to Mexico crazy.
Well, I contemplated that, but then I thought to myself, if I do that, and because I was thinking back to that couple in the jail cell, and I was like, if I go full crazy to Mexico, and then I take Daniel to this place where it's dangerous for him to grow up, and then where he could have a safe life at home with the grandparents, and I knew that house was safe and all that kind of stuff, so it was like I was very, very torn with the last choice.
So did you redo any of it? Did you like get a second ending or just
not
that
yet?
first
No,
one?
I want to go back and redo it. I find it hard to find the time to do many things. I am on holidays at the moment, so I'm hoping to catch up on a lot of things that I like to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really torn on that last choice.
I will say that there's like 7 endings, or to be more accurate, there's like 4 endings with like a few variants. And let's say the being chaotic going through to Mexico is, I don't know, arguably the best ending. Then the kind of surrendering, going to jail. Then the other ones, which I'm going to kind of leave a little bit secret because they're a bit like, oh, well, okay. But yeah, it is kind of interesting because essentially what it kind of did is, I think it kind of picked a good middle ground between you can have your own choice out of these 2 options, but also it's going to be influenced by how you've been interacting with your brother. So I felt like it was a good kind of mix of the 2.
Yeah, because I looked at it afterwards, and there's parts where you could choose a choice and then have Daniel go, well, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, well, that's true of the endings as well. One question I do have, though, is did you find it satisfying? And also, did it bother you, you know, whether or not you found it satisfying?
I did, but I also felt a bit sad and torn over it. I liked it because as you, even though you were in jail, the game kind of showed some pictures of Daniel growing up and going to college and all that kind of stuff that obviously Daniel had been sending to his brother to put on his jail wall and stuff. You know, and then you come back into the game as Sean is being let out of jail, and the boys kind of, they have like a reunion, but you still kind of feel like it's not the same. They don't have that same kind of relationship that they had during the game itself.
Yeah.
It feels very much like Daniel, like he understands it, but he kind of misses his brother, and his brother can't really, you know. Yeah. I definitely feel that. I think overall, like, whether or not the endings were satisfying, like, I wasn't like, yay, this is fun. And in fact, getting all 4 of the endings, it was great because I thought the first ending was like, this is, you know, a bit like, and then I kind of went in descending order through the other episodes that just got sadder and sadder and sadder. Oh, God.
So, yeah, there's that. But I mean, at the same time, it's kind of not supposed to be like fully satisfying because it is supposed to be, you know, like the system is screwed and,
Yeah.
no one can, get through this without, getting screwed up in some way. So I think for the most part, it's kind of what one would expect. And I think that's pretty much all we can say about this. We've been talking for an hour. I mean, I'm just hoping that, like, because my internet's been screwy, so, like, this could take ages to upload when I get around to it. But anyway.
Oh, no.
Yeah, what can you do? Anyway.
You have made me really want to go back and replay it in chaotic. It does sound like a lot of fun.
Well, or
because I am very much a lawful person by nature, and I look at it and I'm like, am I going to be really challenging to turn around and go, no, screw it all, let's, go unlawful. But you've made it sound fun, so I'm actually interested in going back and giving it another shot and trying it.
I will say, like, I originally started, like, doing lawful because I was just like, I'm, like, a shy person. Like, I wouldn't, like, be like, yeah, let's murder everyone. But I just did that for, like, the Let's Play. And if you want to watch, the last 3 episodes of Chaotic Mode and my reactions to them, ATEBIT YouTube channel, which this is already on, so you should check that out. And also I made a playlist of all the Life is Strange stuff I did. Anyway, it's been a really great time. I've loved having to have a chance to chat to you, Miss Midnight Victoria, about this
Absolutely.
game. Would you like to spruik your socials and your Twitch and such?
Sure. You can find me at Midnight Victoria on Twitch. I also do Midnight Victoria on YouTube, Midnight Vic at my Instagram and Twitter. I also write on a blog as well on WordPress, which I think is also Midnight Victoria. I'm
Cool.
Pretty lucky. I've managed to be able to keep my name on nearly everything.
Well, I will have all of those links in the description. I believe also I generally have my Twitter in the description as well. Otherwise, thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and please comment and maybe subscribe. I've got some, best of 2019, worst of 2019 vids coming. And donate to the Patreon to support the podcast and all the video content. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you for having me.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye.